Hi, I'm so pleased to let you know that we have a new episode of The Secret Sauce of Property Managers. And this time I have TJ Clark answering my questions. TJ Clark is from Turnkey Vacation Rentals in the US. Turnkey is ranked number 12 in the top 50 of the largest property managers in the world. They have 6,000 rentals under management, 470 employees, 80 destinations that they take care of. So they're a very large property management company. And TJ was so kind to answer all my questions related to strategy, related to operations, related to technology, distribution. So I highly encourage you to listen to this interview, a very interesting one. He basically gives us the secrets of how Turnkey works. And you can access this both on podcast and also on YouTube. And I very much look forward to seeing you on the other side. Cheers. Hi, thanks so much for listening in or watching this Secret Sauce podcast and video series. I have the pleasure of having the CEO of Turnkey Vacation Rentals, who is ranked number 12 in our top 50 property managers in the world. Congratulations for that. And you have 6,000 rentals, so it's very exciting for us to get your secret sauce. TJ, thanks so much for being on the show. We don't do any small talk on this show, so please tell us shortly who you are, what you do in the company, and what you were doing before. What you were doing before the adventure with Turnkey.
Sure. Thanks for having me, Vanessa. TJ Clark. I'm the president and co-founder of Turnkey. We founded the company with my co-founder John Banzak in 2012. John and I had worked together as colleagues at the Hotwire.com startup team, where I also met my wife, and that was in San Francisco. We ended up selling that business after about 4 years of operations to IAC that owned Expedia at the time, and about 80 other internet businesses. We both stayed on then for a time after that. I stayed there for several years. John and I reconnected when he was conceiving the Turnkey business model, and I loved the idea that we would be helping homeowners that want to put their homes into the short-term rental economy. Big innovators like VRBO and Airbnb were making it much easier for homeowners to put their home into the sharing economy, and they could really monetize because they're sitting on what is usually their most valuable asset, oftentimes a second home, and they make real income that helps those families. And so the whole idea was very intriguing, to try to help the homeowner with the logistics and the hospitality side of the business, which hadn't been as evolved, we thought, and had a big opportunity to benefit from technology to make the hospitality provision more efficient, make it more reliable, make it a higher quality for the guest, the home care, and try to be a great value opportunity for the homeowner in terms of what we could charge by using technology to drive costs out of the process and then pass those savings along to the homeowner.
That sounds great, and you're touching on tons of things that I want to get more into details with. But firstly, I was a bit confused. I went onto LinkedIn and I saw that John is your co-founder, but he's also a CEO. So how does that work? We have two CEOs at Turnkey.
No, I stepped out of the CEO role a little over a year ago. I was the CEO up until that point, and we decided to divide our responsibilities a little bit differently. I'm helping the company since that time go after growth opportunities and build out some new products and services. And then he's focused on the core business and team.
Cool. Thanks for clarifying. Growth opportunities, we're definitely going to approach that.
Okay.
But firstly, I mean, you kind of gave me a bit of an overview of what Turnkey is. Can we talk a bit more about the brand? What does it stand for? Not just from the property manager side, also from the guest side.
Sure. For a homeowner who is our core client, our typical client is a homeowner that might have a second home in a place like Lake Tahoe, somewhere in the US, usually a leisure destination on a beach in a ski town or a mountain area. And And that homeowner, what we want to deliver for that homeowner, they want to usually use their home a couple of weeks a year for themselves, maybe their friends, and or getting away from COVID, it turns out. Um, and and then when they're not there, they would like it to be rented short term. They usually, we go after a home that is above average in quality. So this is a really sort of upscale home. They care about the condition of the home. And that homeowner, our main value proposition for that homeowner is delivering peace of mind and greater returns on their second home investment. That's our value proposition and brand promise to the homeowner. On the guest side, what we want to deliver is a unique private home that's upscale and deliver that with the quality of hospitality that you'd find in a fine hotel, and doing that consistently. So we want to bring a lot of the conveniences of a hotel to the vacation rental renter in terms of ease of making a booking real time with their credit card, securely online. The dates and availability and rates are all up to date and accurate. We give them an app so that it makes it easy for them to see all their booking information. They get robust pre-arrival communications. That app takes them right to the door of their rental, where they can check in on every rental with a digital lock. It's a digital lock that we manufacture, and it will issue a unique code for every stay that's date and time limited. So it's secure for that guest. There's no codes or keys floating around that are not unique to their stay. When they open the door, we want there to be no surprises. We want it to be as it was advertised. We want it to be clean. And if they need help in some way, they can get it 24 hours a day. And then at the end of their stay, we're not asking them to clean it. We're not asking them to bring their own sheets. We're not asking them to take out the garbage. I don't know where those ideas came from, but we don't think those fit. That's not what a hotel trained customer wants. It's not that fun. So we take that part off their hands.
Yeah, it used to be like that. It used to be like that everywhere. It's true. Yeah. People still do it. I don't know. Do people still do it? Bring your own sheets? I don't know.
That's right.
Maybe.
We think it's time to move on. We think the modern VR guest should not have to do that.
Definitely. Well, it sounds like you're a very professional company, and so since you're in the scaling part of the business, I'm curious how on one side you scaling bookings, more guests, and how on the other side you scale to get more property owners, because I mean 6,000 properties is a big amount, right? So how did you get there, and what does the future hold in terms of scaling further?
Sure. Well, the first property we brought into Turnkey in 2012, I actually rented myself to move to Austin to help start the business with John. So our first revenue dollar was actually on my own credit card. And we quickly realized that's not a scalable business model. We were going to have to go get more homeowners, which we set out to do. So the value proposition for the homeowner was that we could bring a technology platform and smart rental home features to this rental space, do it in a very sophisticated way, and raise the level of hospitality that we could provide, lower the cost that they were paying. We're usually, from an owner commission rate, we're very competitive. Not always the absolute lowest, but we're on the low end usually of a range. And we really focus on distributing that home through all of the key distribution channels that we could make available. So VRBO, we were one of the first major PMs to integrate directly with Airbnb, where we were the US launch partner for Homes and Villas by Marriott. We've adopted a direct connection to Google's VR and hotel search product. So we really want to be front of the line on getting owners into the listings and getting them a good ranking there. That's the value proposition that we bring to the market. And then we started in Austin and learned how to operate in Austin. It started aggregating more owners once we got to about 70 owners in Austin, we branched out to the Texas coast, and we branched out to Santa Barbara, which was a big stretch. So one near market, one far market, and learned how to operate the business remotely and set up local teams in those markets to do home care physically. So our turnkey employees live in a market like Santa Barbara, and they go check on homes themselves and coordinate vendors. From there, we started adding more markets. I think at one point we added 24 new US markets in 1 year as we went through our growth phase. And now we operate in 80 destinations in the US. And we have about 50 local salespeople that live in those destinations, and they help us meet quality homes and homeowners and grow our inventory base. So we add hundreds of homes now a month into the service, and intend to just keep growing in the US, where there are many millions of homes in this market. It's just a tremendous market, and really just deepen our install inventory in the US for the foreseeable future.
Fabulous. And I, obviously being in distribution and a channel manager, I'd much rather you have your connections through us. But I realize that with with 6,000 properties, I'm sure the channels are just so happy to take you on directly, and so that's great. And on the other side, I was wondering, you said 24 new markets. Is that the biggest mistake you've ever made?
It was. Possibly. No, there were days it was hard, for sure. It was hard. And for sure, we didn't have everything completely right. We've learned a lot as we go along. And really, our philosophy is to try to make improvements every single day, incremental improvements, just from the mistakes we've made. Then we try to put something in place to make sure that we decrease the chances of that ever happening again. And it's in the end, delivering hospitality in a vacation rental, a lot of things can go wrong. A lot of things can go wrong. So it could be weather, it could be the cleaning, it could be the lock, you name it. There's any number of things that you have to deliver probably 100 things correctly to have a successful rental. And so we focus with our process and with our technology on helping reduce the chances of an error, something going wrong. That's our philosophy. We think we keep doing that, and you focus on cleaning, safety, ease of access of the home, good instructions for the guests, and ease of use. That you can eliminating the bad helps you work your way into better review averages. So we enjoy about a 4.7 star average.
Is that a KPI for the company? Is the
Yes.
review average?
Absolutely.
Yeah, very good. And so cleaning, how did that evolve last year? And what did you put in place with 6,000 rentals in so many markets? How did you scale that?
A process much before we got to 6,000. Cleaning is probably the hardest thing that we do as a property manager, and I know some of our colleagues in property management would probably agree. And so we use all third-party vendors do cleaning for us. We work with some fantastic cleaning teams that are located in our local markets. Early in the company, we built some technology to help us with this clean process. It's a tablet based app. It is a tablet that physically stays in the vacation rental. It's on an Android operating system, and we built a housekeeping app for that. And what happens is a new booking will come into our system. It'll issue a job request to that third-party cleaner who's cleaned that home. She or he can accept it or reject it. If they reject it, doesn't work with their schedule, they'll go to the next cleaner. And if they accept it, it'll issue a lock code for them and give them a schedule in their mobile interface. So they have our list of jobs that they go to, check in the home. The first thing they have to do is check in on the tablet on the app that's in there, our housekeeping app. What we want to know is, did they make it into the unit And did they make it into the unit in time for them to be able to successfully clean that home, especially if we have a new back-to-back booking and we have someone coming in the afternoon. This has all been made a lot more acutely important because of COVID and keeping distancing from our guests and from our staff and from the cleaners to keep them safe. They get a series of standards by which we want the property cleaned. It's specific by unit, by unit, and by the rooms. We ask them to take a photograph that they are using a CDC approved product for the cleaning products. And then it has a photograph process. So at the end of the clean, the cleaner literally takes the tablet and goes around the property. And at the top of the screen, they'll see a photograph of your living room with your pillows and the art that I'm seeing behind you right now, the lamp, table. We want to see them take a matching photo so that all of those, what they're taking a photograph of matches the control photo. They go around the house, do this in all the key rooms, and it's essentially a QA process.
Does somebody check the photos?
Yes, so the photos get reviewed by our team. They get reviewed by a human.
All of them?
Wow. All of them within 5 minutes. So the cleaner's still there. Yes, so wow. Happens 24 hours. The flagged, what they'll do is say, these photos don't pass. And those will go right back to the cleaner while they're still there so they can go fix those photos, resubmit. They'll be paid within 48 hours with the direct deposit. Guest checks in, it gets a Uber style 5-star request to rate the clean, which they do. More than half of our guests do rate the clean. And we have a 97% success rate. So we consider that a 4 or 5-star rating or no rating. And that system will then allocate more jobs to the better rated cleaners, and it will remove cleaners who fail with a 1 or 2 star standard or low ratings. And
that is quite an advanced
system.
We'll
probably it runs in a highly automated way. It schedules all this happens with very little human intervention on a turnkey side, and we'll probably process over 250,000 cleans this year with this process. And so if we hadn't had this technology, I don't think we could have adapted to the COVID standards as quickly as we have been able to. And it just creates a higher quality experience for the guest and the owner, and it helps us pass on savings to the homeowner so we don't have to charge as much.
Incredible. So I wanted to talk about technology anyway. It seems you've invested lots of time, effort, and innovated a lot in terms of technology. So you said guest app, digital locks. You manufactured the digital locks. Wow. And now the housekeeping app. What else have you created in terms of technology?
Well, we think that safety and security is a big deal. So the lock is part of the safety and security picture, but we use an online identification process so that we can know that Vanessa is who she says she is. You answer a series of questions about yourself. Now we can validate your name matches your credit card. When you check in, then the Android tablet and we have other decibellometers in the home. So really the screening doesn't stop just at the point where you book. It's also what happens when you're in the home. We operate in neighborhoods. We want to be good neighbors. We don't want the homes being destroyed. We like to go to parties, but we don't like parties happening in our rentals, and neither do the neighbors and the owners. So we want guests that are going to be respectful. The decibellometer tells us if the decibel level is getting too high, and then we can step in and work with the guest to resolve it, which, you know what, in 98% of cases, the guests do quiet down and are respectful. So it works really, really well. It keeps our incidence of damages in a home to less than 3 in 1,000 stays. We can avoid getting citations. We can keep that owner's rental permit intact. And so it really just helps the owner, helps us, and helps the guest safety.
You know that all of this tech now exists as a standalone, right? Third party. Did you
I
create them
do.
because they weren't around at the time when you needed them?
We did. We think we were first in this process. We do have a patent on to the particular way that we operate, which is called our Guestworks patent, which is our core technology that we use within the company.
Are
The
you
other thing we
reselling that?
developed that is a transparent. We we are selling it as a separate service. It's not so far, yeah, we do. We can sell it as a standalone service. Usually what homeowners ask though is that they want our technology and they want us to be able to do the marketing and booking for them. So we call that Guestworks Plus. It's been selling really well. And so, we thought, I thought that just having a tech only solution would be the big seller, but it turns out it's really that tech plus the owners would like help on the distribution side, as you, I'm sure, are aware in your business
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
And then, they may have a house manager. They may live nearby, so they're used to that. They're on the ground service. They provide it themselves, and that has been our big eye-opening surprise in the past 2 years is how much of a market there is for this type of service.
So you create everything that's kind of offline, and you also do the selling, the booking, the marketing side. The marketing side, you have direct connections with the channels. So you created your own PMS as well.
No, we do have a lot that we built in the PMS area, but we use Escapia as our core PMS.
Wonderful.
We've augmented it with a lot of services and tech.
Great. Right. So you built on top, basically.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah. Great. Well, thanks so much for telling us all about the tech. It's fascinating for me. And so let's move. In fact, since we're on the distribution side again, how do you choose your channels that you work with? I mean, we talked about the big ones right now. Do you work with any niche, any local ones? And how does that process work?
We are trying to be more selective in who we partner with in this regard. We have really enjoyed our partnership with Homes and Villas. They're an outstanding partner. They are very collaborative. I think they're going after a really what was a void in the market where they can bring their Bonvoy membership, the earn and burn points from the world's largest points program, to pre-screened homes that are extremely high quality and delivered really well. And I think that was unique to the market. That's what we think about in terms of our partners. Our relationships with VRBO and Airbnb are also very strong. We talk to them all the time, close relationships and very collaborative. So that's what we look for over versus quantity. We want quality partnership where we really get to work with that partner to improve volumes and improve the business, our respective businesses. And Google as well, I should mention, they've been extremely collaborative. And so those are really important partners. And of course, we'd love it if our guests stop by turnkeyvr.com. It's on the web 24 hours. You can book there direct.
Nice plug there. What's the percentage of direct bookings, if you can reveal that?
It's material. I don't want to disclose the exact percentage, but it's material and growing. We look at the percentages that major hospitality brands report on their percentage of direct, and we're getting there. After 8 years, we're getting to where we feel like we're within close grasp of the industry standard for
that's what I keep on saying
hospitality.
So I keep on saying to people who are really trying to invest in book direct, it's a long-term game, isn't it? You really have to stay at it, and it takes years and lots of money, and you can make also very big mistakes. It's good to surround yourself with experts for sure. And so how do you market to owners? how does that work? How do you get new owners on board?
We are, in the early innings, no one knew us, so it was very door to door, sort of one-on-one sales outreach. And luckily, since then, we have built a little bit of a brand for ourselves in these markets. Our homeowners refer other owners to us. That's great, and we love that. And then we have a local salesperson in a market, and they know what's going on there. They're active. They go to their local homeowner association meetings. They do a lot of outreach. So that's, part of it.
Okay, very good. One last question before we move on to a quick true false. Your thoughts on the future. We didn't talk much about the pandemic because it's not that I want to avoid it, but
Sure.
it is getting repetitive. But your thoughts on the future. Keeping in mind that we can't really predict anything at this stage. But.
Yeah, I think we're all anxious to get this COVID behind us and get back to a more normal life. We are hoping to see other travel segments recover. We would like to see the airlines and the hotels and rental car companies and the OTAs recovering. I think it's no secret at this point that the vacation rental segment did quite well through COVID. That was not clear that was going to be happening in the spring. It was extremely scary, but it did come back because, staying in a private accommodation in a private home, where you might have a pool, you're not interacting with a lot of other people, became a very popular way for people to escape their four walls of their homes over the spring and the summer. And it just, when school didn't return, it just surged all through the fall. And so we feel very fortunate. We felt fortunate that we have our entire team that we kept intact at Turnkey. We have about 470 employees. We kept every single one through this. And thankfully, we were able to do that because we never could have anticipated the return in bookings that did happen. It was especially focused in leisure markets. So, metros didn't fare as well. If you can't drive to the market, it didn't fare as well. And so we still have some markets that are behind where they were. Hawaii, for example, had very serious restrictions. California had a lot of restrictions. And metros, unfortunately, like Nashville, just didn't fare as well because a lot of the fun things to do in Nashville were not available to do. But we feel extremely fortunate that we are where we are. We did have a good year, and feel energized going into this year. We're excited to see the vaccines getting distributed and hope that everybody can put this behind them soon.
Yes, let's keep the optimism up. Okay, so thanks so much for answering my question in such great details. And now let's do a quick true and false. So the idea is that I ask you a question, and the only answers you can give, and there is no right or wrong answer, but you can give your opinion. Is it true for you or false for you? So two words to choose from. All right. So first one, you ready? It's like a game show.
Okay.
Vacation rentals will be the preferred accommodation option for the next 2 years. True or false?
True.
We will not go back to strict cancellation policies. True or false?
False.
Google will become the only OTA.
No.
False. Okay, false. Enterprise level revenue management will be a must for all business sizes to survive.
Already has been. True.
Short-term rental managers will need to also think like letting agents and offer short, mid, and long-term stays.
Definitely true.
Size matters. Larger units will prevail in 2021?
No, maybe. It depends on the traveler. So I would say true for some, false for others.
Okay. I'll let you off that one. Corporate travel will never come back. Corporate travel will never come back to previous levels. Never.
False. It will.
It will. Okay. Diversity and inclusion should be top of mind for leaders in the VR industry. Sorry. So let me say that again. Diversity and inclusion should be top of mind for leaders in the VR industry.
100% true.
Very good. And in 2021, last one, in 2021, we will cheers with cocktails at a vacation rental event.
Let's hope so. True.
Come on, true.
That's right. That's right. I love it.
Yeah,
it's a great question.
Good. Well, thanks so much, TJ, for taking the time to speak to me, and I hope to indeed see you at a vacation rental event this year. The sooner the better.
Awesome. Thanks
so much. Have a nice day. Cheers.
You too. Bye-bye.